Hello and welcome to the Spark Accounting Solutions show. I'm Jenny Q. I'm joined by Julie Babcock-Hyde, the founder of Spark Accounting Solutions, CPA, CFM, QuickBooks Pro Advisor, Profit First Professional. Hi, Julie. How are you today?
Good. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. It's kind of fun to be doing this live in the afternoon. Normally, we do this in the morning or early afternoon.
It's weird. It's change. It's exciting.
It is change. That's kind of the theme of everything right now. Change,
It is. It
uncertainty. Yeah.
definitely is.
Okay. So today we're going to talk about the 5 stages of business crisis. And I'm really excited for you to just dive right into this really useful information. And not only are we going to talk about the stages, we're going to talk about ways that you can overcome the obstacles and kind of maybe even forecast them coming.
Exactly. Well, I love this topic, and a big shout out to Mike McAllowitz, who's the Profit First author. As Profit First professionals, we get a lot of access to Mike, and we get to kind of see and share things that he's working on. And the tools and the stages that we're talking about today are things that he's shared with us so that we can use them and help support our clients through a recession, through a financial crisis.
Yeah.
And so we're going to talk about those 5 stages, and I think most of us are familiar with the 5 stages of grief. You may not know exactly what they are, but it's a process that you work through to come out through the other end, and it's not always necessarily linear.
Okay.
But so when Mike was thinking about dealing with a financial crisis for a business, he realized that there's kind of 5 stages that business owners go through.
Okay,
And
I
so,
love that analogy because we're familiar with the 5 stages of grief. Now
yeah,
let's talk about the 5 stages of business crisis. I love it.
yes. So the first stage that most people come into is shock.
Hmm.
And when business owners are in shock, they don't typically do anything. They sit there, they don't know what to do. They're startled by what's going on. They have no idea how to react, and they just sit there. And when you first see a financial crisis, and if it's a big crisis, like if there's a big recession or something, businesses are going to start dropping at this point, because if you
Hmm.
just sit there in a frozen state, if you just and don't do something, your business is going to die.
Right.
So that stage 1 is the stage of shock.
Okay.
Then those people that make it through that and say, okay, I got to do something, a lot of those people end up into stage 2, which is desperation. Desperation is where we try anything. We don't necessarily have a plan. All of a sudden, everything's on sale, 50% off. And by the way, we didn't, we paid more for the items that we're selling than the 50% off. So we think, oh, we got to get money coming in, but we're actually losing money. Or, we're making these crazy decisions to try to keep something happening, and we're just desperate to do anything.
Hmm.
And again, at this stage, if you're making these crazy decisions and you get stuck here for a long time and you make the wrong actions, and they're really big wrong actions, again, we're going to lose businesses there. Going through a financial crisis, going through a recession, people will drop off there. So once you kind of get through the holy moly, what's going on stage, and then the, oh my gosh, we have to survive stage, and you actually start thinking about, okay, how are we going to get through this? You finally get to stage 3.
Okay.
And stage 3 is where you actually get into evaluation, and you start to, look at what's going on, figure out what choices you are. And what can happen here, I think we've all heard of analysis paralysis.
Yes, absolutely.
If you sit in this stage for too long, um, you can like go out of business again. Or if you do evaluation and don't really properly evaluate your options, you just come up with some options and start trying them. Maybe they aren't as desperate as you were in stage 2, but you still aren't quite picking the right actions to take. We're going to, again, see more businesses drop off here.
Makes
And
sense.
so,
Even as you're going
when,
through it, I'm thinking back to the last 3.5 months, right? And
yeah,
just not only maybe feeling it myself, but with some of my clients. And it's just like, and you probably as well with your clients.
Yeah. Yeah. And a lot of people that have been in business for a while have been through this and seen this before, whether it was after a 9/11, whether it was after, the housing market kind of fell a few years ago. So a lot of people have seen this recession and seen this financial crisis before. And one of the things I always like to point out with this is it doesn't have to be, a nationwide issue.
Mm,
Sometimes
mhm.
an individual business will have a financial crisis and still be going through these same stages.
Ooh, really good point.
Because
Really good point. If
you
you
would,
could give an example that wouldn't be related to
yeah,
a global pandemic, for
yeah.
example, what would it be?
So one of the things that I've seen happen is if somebody has a really big client that maybe makes up 25% or more of their revenue and they lose that client,
Yeah.
they are in the middle of a financial crisis now.
Okay. And so I could see so let's just go back. So we could see how they'd go
Yeah.
into shock.
Yep. They do
Yeah.
the
And
same
then,
thing. It's the, oh crap, what are we going to do now? We
yeah,
don't have money coming in. Ah, ah, ah. And if they don't get past that and they just sit in the, oh no stage, they're stuck in shock.
sure.
Then they go to the, okay, well, let's just find 50 clients to replace this one. And, I don't care if it's, these little tiny ones, let's just get a whole bunch so that we can replace the revenue,
Yeah.
and then get stuck with a bunch of really small clients that they've underpriced,
Yep.
and the desperation stage, and then go out of business because of that. Or they start, evaluating, okay, well, what are our options? How are we going to get through this? Let's be rational. Let's make some choices and just start kind of doing crazy things without knowing if they're really going to, get the needle to the place that they want to be at.
Right.
Um, there. And then once we've gotten through that stage and we've really gotten through evaluation, the next thing to do in stage 4 is actually taking some deliberate actions. And these are where we've actually stopped to think about what is actually going to get me the results I want.
Okay.
How do I maintain profitability? How do I change my staffing? How do I change my overhead? How do I do all of these things to keep my business moving forward through this? And so that the businesses that make it through that stage and pick the right deliberate actions are in a really good spot when we get to stage 5. Because typically what happens after a recession is that there is a whole lot of people that haven't bought things for months, for
Hmm.
years.
Hmm.
And then all of a sudden, like the floodgates have opened and people want to buy things. People want to get back to normal. And so there's a surge at the end. And you want to make sure while you're in that deliberate action phase that you've thought about, gosh, what's happened to my competitors right now? How many are still around? What kind of, what kind of supply and demand are we going to be dealing with when we get out of this and we get to the surge? You think about you think about our toilet paper manufacturers. Their surge was a few months ago. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
And they had this chaos of everybody wanting to buy their stuff, and
Right.
so which is not part of that normal recession time frame that we would expect. But
Right.
so as we're coming out of this, there's going to be a lot of opportunities for people. Like, I'll just, as an example, I'm dying to go see a movie.
Sure.
I'm not in a hurry to do it, but once it feels safe again and I can get out to the theater and go catch a movie, I'm going to want to do that.
Yeah.
We're going to be first in line. And so there's going to be a surge and there's going to be opportunities, and you want to make sure that you've thought about what kind of bandwidth does your company have? What kind of bandwidth is it going to potentially need after this surge happens? And how long is that surge going to last? So that you can kind of make a decision about what you do with capacity. And, okay, we survived. Let's not have this drive us under.
Yeah. Very good.
So
Very good.
those are the 5 stages. And it's really interesting. And I really encourage business owners right now to kind of think about where they're at, because honestly, we've got clients right now that have been open this whole time and been doing fine. We have clients during this whole time that have been open and have been doing beyond fine. We have other clients whose sales are down. We have other clients that like just were allowed to reopen in the last couple
Mm,
weeks and
okay.
are operating at maybe 25%.
Mm-hmm.
And so I really want everybody to stop and think about where they are at in this stage. And this isn't about the state of your business health as much as it is about the state of what's going on in your head.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
There's a lot of psychology and mind stuff that goes on in crisis. And being able to say, hey, stop, where am I at? What am I feeling right now? And what do I need to do to get to the next step of this?
Mm,
Because ultimately, we want to get to evaluation and deliberate action to move our business through this as quickly as possible. Because if we're stuck in, the holy crap, let's do anything, that's not going to work. And if we're stuck in just the what is happening stage,
mm-hmm.
we're not going to get to the other side of this. So, what I want to talk about now a little bit is, how to get help in that evaluation and
Right.
deliberate action stage of things. And so, I've got a free handout for you guys that if you want to grab this, you can. And what we're going to be talking about is part of this recession response. Again, this is something Mike Michalowicz did for people, but these are all things that we're going to talk about just a little bit as far as what are the things, on this list that you should be talking to your accountant about. Now, some people have bookkeepers that are really good at this. Some people have accountants that are really good at this. Some people have CPAs that are really good at this. Some people go talk to their aunt or their uncle about this stuff, truthfully. Some people go talk to their business coach. But this is a time in your life that when you're in a financial crisis like this, it's a good time to go to your board, whatever that looks like as a small business owner, and say, gosh, what do you think about this stuff? So let's talk about some of these things. And the first thing that when you're in a financial crisis, the first thing you want to kind of look at is cash flow. And most people think about cutting cash flow going out, right?
Mm-hmm.
So let's find the expenses that we can cut on a business level. We also encourage people to look and say, what expenses can you cut on a personal level as well? Because if there's money that you can leave into the business during a financial crisis, that's good, because
Okay.
you want your business to survive. So we want to look for ways to reduce cash flow. We also want to look for ways to increase cash flow. Do we have people that owe us money? Do people want to buy from us, but they want financing now instead? Or they want to be able to pay on a credit card so they can make payments because they're a little bit nervous about their money. We want to think about those cash flow things. Another thing that's really helpful to sit down with your accountant is figure out, just the cash you have left. If you don't get another sale and you don't change anything, how long is that going to last? That is really helpful information when planning what kind of changes you need to make around cash flow. And, what kind of expectations do you have along how long this financial crisis is going to last? Is this a 3-month thing? Is this a 6-month thing? Is this a 2-year thing? Do you have no idea, so you want to plan for the worst? You have to think about that for yourself. Everybody's got their own kind of risk tolerance levels.
Sure. Sure.
And so this is kind of where you want to think about where do I think this is going? So cash flow is one of those items and this recession response sheet has got some really great ideas for ways to look at your cash flow. The next thing you want to be doing as you are, in the evaluation and deliberate action mode is doing some strategic planning so that, remember, we want to make the right deliberate actions. So this is an opportunity to really go through and look at your performance. Do you have some customers that are outperforming other customers? And if so, we want to focus on adding customers that are the most profitable. Or if we're going to be losing customers, how do we make sure we keep those ones that are making us the most money? So we want to look at things like that. We want to look at a strategic cash flow forecast. What happens if sales drop 50%? What happens if sales drop 25%?
Mm.
This is something that your accountant probably can help you with, is coming up with what do these different forecasts look like for cash flow, and when are you going to run out in these different scenarios? Which takes me to the next thing. There's more tips on here that I want everybody to kind of take a look at and see how they can apply to your business and how you can get help around those.
Show
But
us again. Show us again what it looks like if
oh,
people get this.
this is the
Oh,
retention response. It's got 5 different categories in here,
okay.
and things that you can do both, I will say, defensively to protect yourself and offensively to almost take advantage of the financial crisis to get your business ahead.
Ooh, okay.
So, because there are things that you can do both ways. If you've got people that are scared to buy and nobody else in your industry is offering financing,
Hmm,
people are more apt to take a small monthly payment on than they are to shell out a few $1,000s for something. Right.
sure.
And so if you can, there may be opportunities like that you can think through. So we talked about, this cash flow forecasting. When's cash going to run out? And I always like to tell everybody it's easier to get, a line of credit before you need it.
Mm-hmm.
And so really thinking through your cash flow needs, your survival needs. Don't take debt just to get debt. See if there's ways you can survive without it. Remember that credit card debt is the highest interest rate ever. So if you do have to take some debt, there may be some options that you can look at before you're in a crisis situation. So really
Mm,
look at what your options are for debt management.
okay.
Okay. And then looking at your accounting. Do you need to have special tracking for like one-time costs associated with, these deliberate actions you're taking that maybe you've got them this year, but you're not going to have them next year. So when you're doing forecasting, you want them separated out. Or maybe for example, Paycheck Protection Program loan forgiveness. We may want to track some of those costs that we spent for that separately in our book so that we can find them later. Or maybe you spent a whole bunch of money on personal protection equipment for your team that hopefully in 3 years from now, we won't be buying that. And you'd want to make sure you know what it is and can identify that in your budget for future forecasting. That's something that you can do with your accounting. Another thing that's really helpful to do with your accounting is looking at trends in history.
Mm,
If your business has been through a recession before, you may have some history that you can get some insight from. And if not, you may be able to see, you may be able to get other trends out of there. How fast have your sales been growing? How fast are they growing now? What can we project for when we come out of this? Really digging down into your performance and figuring out what it can tell you about the future and how to, get through this financially. And the last piece on here is talking about taxes. And this is really a proactive strategy. We're coming up on it right now. All of our April 15th taxes are due July 15th. All of our June 15th estimated taxes are due July 15th. And so we've got like this big whammy coming up
yeah.
of taxes in just a few days. And so this is not a time, even in crisis, to stop planning for taxes, because taxes is another thing that can put your business into a financial crisis. So make sure you're still thinking about the tax whammy that's coming up, along with all these other opportunities. And this is the time when you need whoever that financial person is in your life
Right.
that can help you evaluate this stuff. Get them. A lot of entrepreneurs don't necessarily think this way. They're visionaries and they have a hard time getting down in the detail and seeing what the numbers are telling them.
Mm-hmm.
And they lead off of, well, this is what I feel. This is
Yeah,
what my
totally.
gut's telling me. And that's not necessarily wrong. It's not necessarily wrong. But if we want to take deliberate action and we want to do these things, it's really helpful to say, this is what my gut's telling me. And we say, well, let's run the numbers on that and see what it looks like. We've done that for clients before where their gut told them, this is what I need to do next year. And we ran the numbers and said, if you do that, your net income is going to be down $50,000 next year. And they go, I think I'll revisit that. So it's a really good idea, even if your gut's telling you to do one thing, even if your heart's telling you to do something, to say what the plan is and have somebody put the numbers together and see if that plan is going to get you where you think you're going to go.
And the right numbers, like the right numbers, not guessing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. All right. If somebody wants to reach out to you, Julie, for more information about all of the stuff that you've shared, of course, download the free business crisis and financial management plan. But then beyond that, how do they get a hold of you?
The easiest way is to just hit us up on our Facebook page. We've got a contact us button,
Okay,
and
cool.
we will get in touch with you. Let us know what you need. Let us know what you want to talk about, and we will get a time scheduled to do that.
Excellent. Perfect. Thank you so much. This has been so useful.
Thank you.